Okay, members. The next item on the order paper is a motion on an expanding support for apprenticeships. Clerk, please read the motion.
That this Assembly believes apprenticeships offer an opportunity for everyone, regardless of age or sector, to upskill or reskill as part of their lifelong learning journey, welcomes the commitment in the skills strategy for Northern Ireland Skills for a 10x economy to introduce all age apprenticeships across key sectors of our economy, further welcomes the intention to improve entry routes and career progression in our health system and wider public sector by establishing a new nursing higher level apprenticeship framework and expanding public sector apprenticeships, and calls on the Minister for the Economy to set ambitious targets for increasing Northern Ireland's apprenticeship offer by the end of this Assembly mandate.
Thank you. Philip, can you move the motion? So the Business Committee has agreed to allow up to 1 hour and 30 minutes for this debate. Philip, as the proposer, you will have 10 minutes to propose and 10 minutes to wind. As an amendment has been selected and is published on the Marshall list, the Business Committee has agreed to 15 minutes will be added to the total time for the debate. Please move the motion.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker. I'm delighted to propose this motion here this afternoon to recognise the importance of the apprenticeship sector to the Northern Ireland economy and to outline how we all collectively in this House can work together to build on that success. In light of that genuine desire to build a stronger economy by working together, I'll be delighted to accept the amendment that will be put forward by my Economy Committee colleague, Ms Eastwood. I look forward to working with all members across the House to make this a reality. Our motion today seeks to recognise the important commitments made to date by the Executive, but goes further in calling for the Minister to set out ambitious targets for increasing Northern Ireland's apprenticeship offering by the end of this mandate. And can I take this opportunity to thank the Minister for his attendance here this afternoon. I think it shows his willingness to work with all members to make this a reality. In my opening remarks, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, I want to welcome the comments of the Economy Minister when he outlined his economic vision to this House just a few short weeks ago. One of the key ways in which the Minister outlined his vision was by stating the important role that we have in increasing the number of good jobs available. The skills strategy for Northern Ireland, published in March 2022 by then Minister Lyons, made clear that if we are to make our economy 10 times stronger, 10 times more prosperous and 10 times more resilient, that will require transformation in our skills system. The skills of our people are the primary driver of our success, and I would welcome the Minister outlining his commitment to build on the strength of the skills strategy that was published in 2022. The Democratic Unionist Party has proudly spearheaded the 10x strategy, which received the backing of key business and educational leaders across Northern Ireland. We recognise this as a crucial tool towards closing the skills gap and in building a workforce that will take our economy to even greater heights.
Can we give way?
Of course.
Thank the member for giving way. I would ask if the member agrees with me that given the emphasis on skills and apprenticeships and their importance to our economy, that in such a climate it is utter folly to even consider the closure of Castlereagh College.
I thank the member for her intervention, and I know her and her colleague Mr Brooks have been eloquent and articulate on ensuring that that campus remains open. I know they've put those comments on the record to the Minister previously, and they make a strong case for their constituents. Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, the new Economy Minister on the record has signalled his intention to deliver key recommendations contained within the 10x strategy, and he can be assured of my party's support as we work together to achieve that. At the centre of this strategy is a clear commitment that we must focus our attention on the sectors which are best placed to add value in the global economy because of our productivity edge, a productivity edge that our people help us secure. In this context, it is impossible to overstate the importance of apprenticeships and investing in skills. My party is extremely proud of our record in driving forward the Northern Ireland economy. The economy of 2007 is virtually unrecognisable from the economy of 2024, but that cannot simply be the limit of our ambition. We owe it to the next generation to set our aim and our gaze even higher, to deliver an even stronger economy, and central to that, in my view, is the role of apprenticeships. We want to provide the conditions for more economic growth and ensure that there's confidence within the sector across all aspects that we have the people and the skills ready to deliver. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it was DUP economy ministers who led the apprenticeship recovery package to minimise apprenticeship loss, and it was Minister Dodds who launched a new supply chain and logistics course for higher level apprentices at the Northern Regional College. I want to take this opportunity, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, to put on record my support and commitment to the FE sector in Northern Ireland. I'm very proud to have the Newton Abbey campus, which I know the Minister visited recently, but I think on occasions we fail to recognise the importance of the FE sector. I want to send a clear message of the important role that it plays in delivering for our communities and our economy in all sections of Northern Ireland. Turning to North Belfast, it wouldn't be a speech if I didn't mention my constituency, but as an MLA for North Belfast, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, I made a pledge to the people of my constituency that no one there would be left behind. I made a pledge to them that I would ensure that they would not be denied the economic opportunities that their predecessors were as a result of our troubled past. I made a pledge to them that the communities that I represent, that economic exclusion would no longer be tolerated. And I made clear to them that the factories that overshadow their homes would be welcoming and opening to them. To that end, Madam Principal Deputy Speakers, I want to reference but a few of the organisations who have helped remove the barriers to economic opportunities in North Belfast. Impact Training, Women's Tech, Reskill Boxing Club, The Hub, the Rath Group, Ashton Centre, Newton Abbey Community and Cultural Arts Network, Queen's Park Women's Group, and the list goes on, each of them determined to share my vision, ensuring everyone has an opportunity. Our greatest economic asset is our people, and global investors rightly recognise the ambitions and skills that the people of Northern Ireland have to offer. But we can only maintain and build upon that investment if we have the pipeline of skilled workers that can adapt to an ever-changing economy. Even more so now as the global economy pivots towards green growth and other exciting fast-moving industries, this offering needs to keep pace for the demands of both skills, our people and employers. Apprenticeships have been key in our success in the past, and we must, as Assembly, not only commit to increasing funding for skills, but promoting apprenticeships across all age sectors of our economy. As Chairman of the Economy Committee, the message I receive from investors is clear. Apprenticeships in Northern Ireland are of an exceptionally high standard, so let us commit to continue to work together and set ambitious targets which we can reach. Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, the wide range of sector opportunities continues to grow on an almost weekly basis. From accountancy, construction, health, beauty to IT, transport and all in between, these offer opportunities to all the people of Northern Ireland. For many young people, it's an opportunity to earn whilst gaining recognised qualification, and for others, it's an opportunity to step into a new career path. In growing our apprenticeship offering, the Executive must ensure that it is fully included in the careers advice offered in our schools, further education sector, training and in job centres. And I know it's something that the Committee for the Economy have been keen to work with the Committee for Education to ensure we have a well-rounded careers advice service here in Northern Ireland. Those wraparound services will be vital to ensuring we continue to move that forward. Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, this motion rightly recognises the intention to improve entry routes, career progression into our health system by establishing a new nursing higher level apprenticeship framework. But nursing is not the only profession in which our health service would benefit from a renewed focus upon apprenticeship. In other parts of the United Kingdom, there have been occupational therapy apprenticeships available since 2019, which play a vital role in freeing up frontline services in our health system. And I would encourage the Minister for the Economy to continue to work with his colleague, the Minister for Health, to continue to develop those proposals. It's now more important than ever that we as a House commit to work together on these issues. Turning to all-age apprenticeships, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, these also offer opportunities to all people in all walks of life, and removing the age cap on apprenticeship was a welcome previous step by the Executive, and I'm sure the Minister will want to recommit his intentions to continue to have that cap lifted. To conclude, Madam Principal Deputy Speaker, we have the opportunity to continue to build on the success of our apprenticeship sector and set our sights and our gaze even higher. We have an opportunity to commit to continue to work together to build an economy ready for the future, to build an economy that delivers for every community in every corner of Northern Ireland. And I commend this motion to the House this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. I call on Saoirse Eastwood to move the amendment. Saoirse, you have 10 minutes to propose the amendment, and you shall have 5 minutes to wind, and all other speakers will also have 5 minutes. So please open the debate on the amendment.
Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker, and I really welcome this motion being brought before the House today. And indeed, I want to echo the comments of the Chair of the Economy Committee, somebody who I've really enjoyed working with in the last few weeks, and I know that we're on the same page whenever it comes to social inclusion in terms of skills and education. Our amendment is a friendly one. It is intended to support the motion, build on it, and reiterate the important elements of apprenticeship policy, which I will touch on. I strongly believe apprenticeships are a transformational educational route for people of all ages. Indeed, I believe that education and skills provides people with the passport for the rest of their life. They can help our society to fill skill gaps, provide accessible routes into excellent careers such as manufacturing, healthcare, technology, business, hospitality and trades. When was the last time you tried to get a tradesperson? They're like hen's teeth and they can call their price and fair play to them. They can also ensure people are emerging from education with hugely valuable skills without the level of debt that can be experienced through other paths. In 2021-22, we had 7,608 apprenticeship starts, from level 2 through to level 7. Across the board, we have seen the trend of people undertaking apprenticeships increasing, but slowly. However, our apprenticeship participation rate per thousand remains the lowest in the UK, while the latest Employer Skills Survey showed there were nearly 40,000 vacancies in the North, nearly 14,000 of which were deemed skills shortage vacancies. Indeed, there is a lot more work that can be done around apprenticeships, although this has been made significantly harder having lost crucial EU funding following our exit from the EU and the difficult financial position of our departments. Progress needs to be made, and I will touch on a number of areas. The first is the tone with which we discuss apprenticeships and vocational training in society. In my opinion, there still remains a perception from many that the academic route is somehow inherently better. I have nothing against universities, I even went to one myself in later life, or people choosing the academic route. However, we need to make it clear that it is inherently no better or no worse than vocational pathways. There should be absolute parity between the two. This lingering perception does not exist to the same extent in the likes of Switzerland or Germany, because they simply look at the facts. Technical and vocational pathways like apprenticeships produce highly skilled, highly sought-after individuals that are desperately needed in our society. In fact, without these people, our daily life would grind to a halt. This lingering societal bias is changing, but we need to speed up that change. That is, in part, why I am so passionate about reforming careers advice, something that the Chair has already mentioned, especially in schools. Young people need to be aware of every opportunity and path available to them, including apprenticeships, and empowered with support to follow the route that they want. That means delivering the long-delayed careers portal, having earlier interventions, making it easier for young people to experience the world of work firsthand, and ensuring this happens more than just once throughout their school career. And it means ongoing conversations about the routes that they can take. And indeed, I think of excellent organisations such as Young Enterprise who do brilliant work right across Northern Ireland. The motion speaks of increasing the apprenticeship offer, and that is something I agree with. For example, the development of a nursing higher level apprenticeship framework is welcome news, and I believe that indeed, as the member has touched on, there is definitely the potential for other frameworks to be developed, particularly in social care. For example, we've mentioned the challenge of climate, we've mentioned the potential for green growth, and indeed just last week the Economy Committee heard of the transformational opportunities in moving towards net zero, not just in terms of reducing fuel poverty, but of the local businesses and technologies that will indeed develop and thrive. These growing and future sectors need us to have a strong pipeline of talent emerging. And indeed we know that Northern Ireland Electricity Networks and others have clubbed together to form a utilities apprenticeship, something that will be absolutely key for us going forward. Absolutely.
Thank the member for giving way. Would you agree with me that all of these apprenticeships and the skills that are required need to be led by the industries, whether it is nursing, whether it is health and social care, or whether it is the engineering business in my own area of Mid-Ulster? They need to be led by the businesses. That's who needs to be listened to, for they know the skills that they need and they require. They know the training that is required in order to deliver those skills. Thank you.
Absolutely, I agree with the member, and indeed, I'm thinking of her constituency of Mid-Ulster and of the incredible work that Mega do and the work that they've done in bringing young people to the workplace, but also, as you say, it's crucial that it's actually led by industry and that they have that innate ability to understand where our economy is going and giving our young people the chances to progress through that. However, developing those sorts of frameworks and sectoral partnerships that we've talked about does not equal success alone. England has had apprenticeships in nursing since September 2017, and although the Royal College of Nursing say there is absolutely a place for them, in the execution of them they have noted a shortage of training capacity, a lack of funding and constraints that the apprenticeship levy have caused. When it comes to healthcare apprenticeships, they need to be part of a strategic workforce plan which requires close cross-departmental working, and indeed this is something in my short time already I've raised with the Health Minister on the floor of the House and indeed the Economy Minister on the floor of the House in terms of the issues around the health workforce challenge, and we know that that will not be down to one department alone. That will be something that will indeed be a cross-departmental job of work. There also needs to be an acceptance that Northern Ireland is made up of SMEs. We are predominantly an SME economy. And we need to ensure that they, like bigger organisations, are empowered and supported to take on apprentices. That requires supporting them through advice and training, but it also means further developing our managerial capacity. We hear again and again about the need for interventions to develop more managerial talent across all sectors, and that needs to be done as a twin-track approach with apprenticeship development, as good managers will ensure apprentices are motivated and get the most out of the training. Our amendment makes specific reference to the role of further education, and I really think that's incredibly important at this time, and I do echo the sentiments of the member. I feel it was important to put that on record, as I feel particularly at this time that our colleges, lecturers and students within them need champions right now. The FE sector was rightly at the heart of the skills strategy. However, the reality is ongoing industrial relations issues, lack of pay parity with school teachers, a voluntary redundancy scheme costing millions and the potential of campus closures, all while we have been told there is a project undergoing considering the future structure of the FE system. That transformation project urgently needs to be brought forward and discussed openly before the voluntary redundancy scheme goes ahead and before any decisions around campus closures. Otherwise, we are simply jumping the shark. I will, surely.
Does the member agree with me, similar to my constituency colleague, Ms Bunting, that the potential closure of the Belfast Met Castlereagh campus, combined with the redundancy schemes that have been ongoing, is misguided, given that we had no economy minister in post during this time? And does she share my view that the minister must engage proactively to find a solution that keeps the campus open?
Absolutely. I thank the member for his point, and I do share that concern, not just around the specific campus raised, but also in general. I do think that we are indeed right to stop for pause in that regard. We need a strategic vision for FE and to provide clear delineation of the role and functions of universities, colleges and schools, and I know there were recommendations included within the Independent Review of Education which should be considered. Our amendment also makes reference to a dedicated skills fund. This was a recommendation in the OECD skills strategy for Northern Ireland and is indeed a request of many businesses. It will be essential to making real progress in developing apprenticeships and supporting more people to start them. It would also send a signal that the department is making lifelong learning and skills a priority. In this country, we tend to think that learning stops at 16, 18 or 21, and that's a mindset that needs to change. And I do know that the Minister shares that view of the world and indeed has made strides in that regard to frame that conversation going forward. Currently, instead of benefiting from a dedicated skills fund, our larger businesses have to pay an apprenticeship levy to the UK Treasury, circa 80 million, without seeing any direct benefit. While it is a reserved matter, we do need to continue to make the case that it is not working for our local organisations. In closing, let me say that we want to see a growing number of apprenticeship frameworks and opportunities, as long as they are well designed, well considered and properly supported. We want to see the number of people starting and, most importantly, completing apprenticeships increasing, and we believe that ambitious targets should be set around both. Indeed, as they say, what gets measured gets done. But we also want to see changing demographics, more women undertaking apprenticeships, more people from disadvantaged backgrounds moving up through them, and indeed with all-age apprenticeships. So we support this original amendment and we commend our motion to the House. Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Saoirse. Our next speaker is Philip McGuigan.
I welcome the motion and will be supporting it and the amendment. Apprenticeships must be an integral part of any strategy to develop our skills base here in the North. Young school leavers in my constituency in North Antrim should have the option and opportunity to have an educational pathway to reach their full potential through an apprenticeship to earn as they learn. So I welcome the Economy Minister's commitment to creating more and better paid apprenticeships and skills academies as outlined in his economic vision. I think it's worth noting from the outset that the aspirations, which I support and agree with in the motion and the amendment, have and will be made more difficult with the impact and loss of substantial funding from the EU. The British government's supposed replacement through the Shared Prosperity Fund isn't adequate and does leave the executive with a significant gap to plug. Ultimately, we can speak about and support a ring-fenced skills fund, but in reality we need any lost funding from Brexit to be restored so we can actually extend provision and achieve the ambitious targets that we would all in here like to see. This motion makes mention of the 10x skills strategy, but I do think it's important to point out the limitations within 10x in that it narrowly focused on just 6 sectors, the majority of which were in the digital sectors like cybersecurity and financial services. And whilst no doubt these are important, I think a skills strategy needs to be consistent with the needs of all local employers across all constituencies and sectors. One of the best examples, as has already been pointed out, of apprenticeships working well is within the manufacturing sector in Mid-Ulster under the MEGA model. Sinn Féin at the time of 10x made the case that there are labour and skills shortages in areas like tourism, construction and health service, some of which could be resolved by investment in apprenticeships. The provision of the nursing higher level apprenticeships, for example, is something that Sinn Féin has previously supported. There are over 1,700 registered nursing and midwifery vacancies currently being recruited for within the HSE. Nursing apprenticeships can offer an additional pathway for people to enter the nursing profession without having to go through a more academic route, and could help people who work in other roles within the health and social care sector to move into nursing profession if they wished. Similarly, we need to be much more ambitious and elevate the importance of investing in green skills. So again, I'm glad to see that green skills and a just transition are a key feature of the Economy Minister's economic vision. Currently, there are around 5,000 people employed in full-time green jobs here in the North, but we can expect that number to grow and grow substantially as more and become more available in areas such as renewable energy, manufacturing, retrofitting and conservation. The energy strategy sets out the potential for almost 14,000 jobs to emerge in the low-carbon workforce. And apprenticeships can and should be used to bridge the gap between the levels of qualifications needed for carbon-intensive industries which are likely to close or change to the renewable sectors where the workforce will definitely expand. And in September 2023, the Department chose to fund all-age apprenticeship apprentices, meaning that anyone over the age of 25 can now receive public funding for their apprenticeship, and this is a welcome move. All age apprenticeships will be a game changer for skills and will mean that workers of all ages can reskill and upskill without having to pay for their own apprenticeship training, and therefore find a path into a better job or enhance their career opportunities. In conclusion, Las Concordia, apprenticeships and apprentices, whatever their age, must be treated with the same consideration and importance as other third-level students. And this career pathway must be embedded within the education careers advice system. Increasing the uptake and expansion of apprenticeships will be reliant on reform of careers advice. For too long, academic pathways and routes to university have overshadowed the importance of apprenticeships and vocational pathways to success, and that needs to change.
Thank you, Philip. I call Meg Nesbitt.
Deputy Speaker, thank you very much indeed. And as economy spokesman, our spokesperson for the Ulster Unionist Party, very happy to support the motion and the amendment. I like the amendment for a couple of reasons. The recognition of the crucial role for further education and also the call for a dedicated skills fund. The latter being a manifesto commitment of my party back in 2022, and we did so having studied similar initiatives, namely the Skills Development Scotland initiative and SkillNet in the Republic of Ireland, both very successful. And what they do is they coordinate and they organise and make sure that funding for job skills goes to the right place. That includes apprenticeships and lifelong learning. And importantly, I think, given the day that's in it, we also envisage this body as being a tripartite arrangement between government, business and trade unions. And I say that because earlier today, up in the Long Gallery, I was with the Minister and other members as the Northern Ireland Committee of the Irish Congress of Trades Unions published their document, Democracy at Work, Social Dialogue and the Tripartite Model. In terms of the role for further education, I think this is a fundamental about how we view our society, about what we think of education and which intelligences we cherish. Because we all know there are different forms of intelligence, and it seems to me our formal education system overvalues the academic over everything else. And if we do that, if we want to breed a nation of academics, we'll probably be able to publish some great intellectual papers just before we all starve to death. And I liken it often to, there's a new supermarket in your area with 100 jobs, and it seems sometimes we think there's only 3 of those jobs worth having: general manager, finance manager, human resources manager. But again, if the other 97 aren't in play, we're not going to be able to put food on the table. And we had an interesting debate, or the start of an interesting debate, at the Economy Committee last week, and it was over the definition of the term good job. And I know the Minister had that in his economic vision, and he might care to expand on it. I don't think we're going to get to a fully agreed definition today. I think there are probably many definitions. But it doesn't have to be high-skilled, high-paid. For me, a good job is a job that a person takes pride in, that society values, and that the employer rewards appropriately. So, working in that supermarket without being one of those 3 people I've mentioned could make for a very good job for that individual. You might also say a good job is high value, but is that high value to society, stroke the economy, or is it high value to the individual? Well, I think if it's both, if you can harmonise both, then you've got a definition of success, of what a good job is. But on the idea of what we think about education, I'm sure we all know schools who take pride in saying they've got a very high percentage of sixth formers who leave to go on to university. But is that about that school enhancing its reputation of a centre of excellence for academic study? Or is it about saying we do the best for each individual pupil? And I would suggest it's the former, not the latter. Because there tends to be this thought that university degree is good, apprenticeship well, that's second best. But it's not. And so we need that cultural change, Principal Deputy Speaker. At the first meeting of the Economy Committee, the Chairman asked us all to talk about our priorities or our interests. One of my key ones is tackling our high rates of economic inactivity. These are people who want to be at work but can't because of their barriers, and we know what those barriers are. One is affordable, accessible childcare, but the other is skills. And skills and apprenticeship go hand in glove, and therefore I'm more than happy to welcome this debate, to support the motion and the amendment.
Thank you, Mike. I call Sinead McLaughlin.
Speaker, I welcome this motion and the amendment today. I want to start by saying that apprenticeships are absolutely fundamental, because if you want to grow your economy, then the best place that you can start is with the skills base of your people. It is skills that drive economic growth and prosperity, and when it comes to increasing those level skills, investing in apprenticeships is among the greatest interventions that you can make. Every year they help thousands of young people, particularly young people to develop their key skills, gain experience, and then open the doors to full employment. Apprenticeships strengthen the skill base in the key industries of our future, and they bring people back into the labour market, and they help to boost our shocking productivity levels, which, as we all know around here, has been the Achilles heel of our economy for far too long. So investing in apprenticeships should be at the heart of the Minister's approach, and I know he has made a commitment to that. Indeed, it has been a failure of past ministers not to invest as heavily in apprenticeships, and it has proven profoundly damaging to our economic potential. And the loss of the EU funding through Brexit has compounded that damage, and we need to find ways of making up that lost ground. Earlier this week, Stephen Kelly from Manufacturing and I said, talk to any businesses here in the North and they will tell you that their biggest problem is the availability of labour. And he's right, we have a skills gap in Northern Ireland to the rest of the UK that shows no sign of actually closing. And that is a skills gap fuelled by many factors, but among them are the low level of human capital, aided and abetted by the brain drain from our shores, the attainment gap in our schools, the lack of quality careers guidance, which desperately needs reformed, and the dearth of support for employers who would be willing to offer apprenticeship programmes. In the context of these challenges, it's little wonder that the number of employers offering apprenticeships has stayed largely static in the last few years. So we need to do so much more to improve our skills base by investing in apprenticeships and closing the gap with other areas of the UK. And I firmly believe investment must include the ring-fence skills fund that can provide the financial support available, reform the apprenticeship levy, and more support for employers and further education colleges, and the cohesion between both of them. And I suppose the provision of proper financial support for students undertaking those apprenticeships. They need to be supported and valued through their career pathway as well. And also about finding the right balance between the appropriate pathways between further education and higher education, where we don't overcompensate one and leave the other to not feel as valued that those are going in those programmes. So I also believe strongly that we must invest where the need is the greatest in order to ensure that everyone in Northern Ireland has the chance to go as far as their talents will take them, regardless of their postcode. That means addressing, and the Minister will hear it again, profound regional imbalances. And so as we stand here today, the rate of people with no qualifications at all is more than double between the highest performing council districts and the lowest performing council districts. And Chair of the Economy Committee, North Belfast has an extreme problem in this area as well that needs to be addressed, and it is a skills problem in that area as well. So of course each area has its own challenges, but that is an imbalance that we cannot be allowed to continue. It is another example of the need for legislation to address these inequalities. I support the motion and I support the amendment. I think the amendment makes the motion much more targeted in a way. And the calling for targets, I think we can't have a Northern Ireland target. We must address where the inequities lie, and so sub-regional targets are really good. Certainly, go ahead.
I thank the member for giving way, and I agree with her analysis that we do need to not adopt a scattergun approach per se, just for the sake of numbers, but the target does need to be reflective of where the gaps are. Would she agree with me that we need to ensure that we meet our climate goals in terms of our climate crisis, but also our challenges within the health and social care workforce, and that should be reflected in how we go about this?
Sinead, you have an extra minute.
Okay, thank you. I would absolutely, totally agree. You know, there are certain imbalances that we need to actually tackle in order to support those areas and those regions. Also, there is a gender gap in apprenticeship programmes as well that we need to really look at in order to make sure that more women and girls are picking up these apprenticeships and they're choosing that as their career pathway as well. So finally, Speaker, I would encourage the Economy Minister to be really ambitious in this space. We cannot overstate the importance of this issue for our economy and for our people. Skills are our future, and we need to put them front and centre of our approach. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Sinead. Our next speaker is Padraig Delargy.
As in my role as Sinn Féin spokesperson on further and higher education, I've had consistent engagement with businesses, but particularly in recent weeks with constituents who are working in industry. So that's industries like fast technologies, like Terex, like Newprint, who are currently going through apprenticeships within Derry and within the Northwest. And within speaking to those businesses and to those constituents, the key thing that shines through in all of it is about removing barriers, whether that's in age and gender barriers, which colleagues have mentioned today, whether it's in location or qualifications. And I think our number one priority in this debate is that it has to be around making those apprenticeships accessible to all. And on that, I want to touch on three key themes. The first one is on north-south relations. Second one is on careers guidance, and then the third one is around nursing. One of the key issues which I've had brought up in my constituency, and I know the colleagues in other border constituencies have this raised as well, is around the fact that if someone is studying at, for example, Northwest Regional College and is taking on an apprenticeship, they have to do so within that same jurisdiction. That locks out a lot of people who are living in border constituencies, and it comes back to that piece on regional balance and on making sure that those are accessible to all. It works both ways and locks people out on both sides of the border. So I know it's something that the Minister's been very cognizant of. I think that it's something that we need to look at as a committee and something which we can hopefully work on in the time ahead. Because
I thank the member for giving way, and I don't mean to and intend to interject, Principal Deputy Speaker, an awful lot, but I do just want to say I think you're absolutely right. I think there are learnings that we can take from the South, and I think we need to be adopting more of an all-island approach whenever it comes to how we shape our economy in terms of where the potentials are with our dual market access, and going forward. Would the member agree with that contention?
You have an extra minute, Padraig.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on this issue particularly, we need to put politics to the side. In my constituency, I haven't spoken to one business who doesn't see the benefit of this, and I think that that's right across the board. That's been reflected in other constituencies as well. What we're hearing from our businesses and from people who are taking on apprenticeships is that they need that flexibility to grow, to survive, but also to continue to bring through new people and new skills in all those areas. The second key theme, and it's already been touched on again by colleagues, is around careers advice. That is essential, and I think that what the Chair has suggested there around linking up between Education and the Economy Committee is vital for us doing that. We did suggest that in our party response to the 10X strategy, something which I would like to see reviewed and implemented now, because there is a consensus across this chamber and across our committee that this is something that needs to be addressed. There's been far too much focus on academic routes, on achieving university places. So what I would like to see is a careers advice service that's professional, that's personalised, and that's sustained right across a young person's education. The third point that I want to touch on finally is just around the nursing apprentices. My colleague Phillip McGuigan has touched already on the fact that there are 1,700 vacancies in December past around nursing. This is something that both Minister Murphy and Deirdre Hargey in her role as Minister have introduced 45 public sector apprenticeships in the last mandate. That's something which is very much to be welcomed and something which we need to adopt in this mandate as well. So there is a clear pathway now for us to recruit nurses, but in doing so, and where the barrier arises on that, is retaining nurses. There's no point in us recruiting nurses if we're not going to pay them properly, if we're not going to make sure that there's fair conditions and a reason for them to stay. So I would want to continue to work with all the Economy Committee members to do that. I think that we've identified where the gaps are, where the barriers are, but key to coming out of this is that we work collegiately to make sure that those are implemented and addressed. So I welcome this motion, be supporting the motion and be supporting the amendment today.
Thank you, Padraig. I call Jonathan Buckley.
Principal Deputy Speaker, and I welcome this motion, and I think it is a timely opportunity for the House to recognise and celebrate the key contribution that apprentices have played in the Northern Ireland economy. I think we all can relate to different experiences where we've interacted with apprentices and their key contributions they've played in a number of sectors. And looking back, we can think that those were very much in traditional sort of craftsmanship, such as electricians, builders, joiners, but that field has grown and it continues to grow with exciting new opportunities. For my own sins, my first interaction with the working world was as an apprentice, and for a risk of embarrassing him, he's not here, but I went to an interview for an electrical apprenticeship at an agri-food company, and sitting across from me was the member from Mid Ulster, Keith Buchanan, who was to interview me that day at 17 years of age. I'm pleased to say he gave me the job. I didn't take it up in the end, but never did I think that we would cross paths again in the apprenticeship world of politics. But it's a vital example of just how interwoven apprenticeships already are in the Northern Ireland psyche. But there's much more work to be done. We have to support them. When we look at the significant issues facing the Northern Ireland economy, and it comes up time and time again, and it's come up again in this debate, is about the skills gap. Is about the first thing that a potential investor looks at is what skills does an economy have? And we do have significant gaps. There's been an inability of economies in the Western world to repivot their workforce towards the sectors in which are growing. We've been too slow in acting. So I welcome this motion and that ability and that recognition to say we must pivot to keep at pace with the economy. And on that very point, I do want to pay tribute to the former Economy Minister Gordon Lyons and indeed my colleague Diane Dodds, who recognised the need for apprenticeships and put it into the heart of a skills strategy and indeed within the 10 Acts economy, because they recognised that regardless of age, traditionally apprenticeships have always looked upon that junior member of staff. But now we see the untapped potential of apprenticeships not only at those junior years but right throughout life to tackle the issue of economic inactivity. We have a ready workforce that could be easily applied to growth sectors and ensure that we can continue to develop upon the economy. One issue that has been mentioned by all parties, and it is really actually interesting to see it's a point of unanimity at the committee, because we've all recognised the huge emphasis that there must be on a better careers provision to ensure that we can train and offer opportunities to the workforce of the future. Because in many cases it has been lacklustre. We can all look at our own personal examples, and some of them are bad. In fact, some of them are terrible, about the career opportunities that were offered to young people in different times gone by. But I tend to feel that there must be much more cross-departmental working on this point. And it's a point that we need to take up with our education colleagues as well. Because I think fundamentally, when we approach the topic of further education and higher education, and both are to be celebrated, both bring great opportunity. But if we're to look at the role of apprenticeships and the ability to pay good wages, earn while you learn, you know, that has a transformational impact. But I believe we're not actually selling that message at an early enough stage. And I mentioned this at the committee. Quite often the conversations are being had when children are picking GCSEs or A-levels. Often opinions have been formed at that stage. I'm not saying in all cases, but in some, opinions have been formed and therefore our young people do not fully grasp what the potential opportunity that there is. Absolutely.
Thank you, the member, for giving way. Last week at the Infrastructure Committee, senior officials briefed our committee, and one of the key issues highlighted was the high level of vacancies, particularly in technical roles of over 28%. However, they did outline they consider more innovative ways of addressing these vacancies. Would the member agree that departments such as infrastructure should be taking the lead on this and doing more through creating more apprenticeship places within their departments and, I suppose, practice what they preach?
You have an extra minute, Johnson.
Thank you, and I thank the member because it's a vital point. There's huge opportunities in our public sector. We are going through a moment of great change in our economy. Let's look at this. Birth rates are at a historic low in the Western world. There's going to be a huge push for AI technologies to meet the demands of a workforce that is no longer there, and also automation of work lines in terms of more public-facing services such as, well, even we look at manufacturing or agri-food. But it is still going to require the input of skilled young people, and indeed those of all ages, applying through the likes of apprenticeships that can man and work these machines, and it's applicable in the public sector as well. So in closing, I will say this. I welcome the opportunity to celebrate and target resource, and I think we've talked about the apprenticeship levy and how that's resource being taken away when it should be something that should be put in to the Northern Ireland economy. But let's really focus in on what synergies there can be across departmental to ensure that we give apprenticeships the opportunities that they deserve and give our employers a workforce that is fit for purpose going forward as our economy changes, albeit for the better. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Jonathan. Stuart Dixon, please.
Deputy Speaker, and like others, I'm delighted to take this opportunity to discuss what can only be described as the transformative power of apprenticeships in bolstering our economy, reducing inequality and addressing the pronounced skills shortages faced by employers. Recent data from the Employer Skills Survey shows that there were nearly 40,000 vacancies across Northern Ireland, with a significant portion, 13,500+, attributed directly to lack of skilled applicants. This situation reflects a need for a dedicated skills fund, as my colleague has already said, aiming at enhancing our apprenticeship provision. So far from being merely a policy suggestion, that this part is a critical step in nurturing a well-rounded, skilled and thriving work community. However, Principal Deputy Speaker, unfortunately, since the important steps taken by now quite some time ago Minister Stephen Farry, when he was Minister for Employment and Learning back in 2016, the apprenticeship sector has sadly seen minimal advantage over that time, in part, not least of all, due to the instability and disruptive effects of this assembly not being in place. Apprenticeships across all ages. Yes, I will.
Thank you to the member for giving way. You speak quite rightly of the need for a skills fund and the need to build apprenticeships. And one of the things that frustrates industry most is the fact that the apprenticeship levy is collected but doesn't come back in to fund apprenticeships in Northern Ireland. It goes into the general overall financial position that Northern Ireland's in. It would be helpful, would the member agree with me, it would be helpful if we could retain some of the apprenticeship levy and direct it specifically at a skills fund to build skills and apprenticeships in Northern Ireland.
Yep.
Stuart, do you have an extra minute?
Thank you. And I appreciate the intervention from the member and indeed a former minister who will understand the detail of this situation. But it's complex and has been made more complex and perhaps hasn't been tackled. And I'm sorry to say this again because of the lack of consistency of Assembly over the last number of years. But you're absolutely right. It's an area that needs to be tackled. And the best solution from our perspective is a local skills fund which may be able to replace or at least work directly with that. Apprenticeships across all ages deliver a wide range of benefits. Not only do they offer hands-on training to fill existing vacancies, but they provide upskilling and expand the routes to qualifications. And the expansion of those routes to qualifications are vitally important. So in this context, I would like, as Chair of the All-Party Committee on Social Enterprise, to say that we have a role to play as well. The dedicated social impact and the ability to connect with people outside the mainstream makes them perfect allies to work with and expand apprenticeships with. A notable challenge is the entry barriers faced by many, often linked to additional support needs. So there's a need for a cross-cutting and cross-departmental approach to all of this, from education to health to the economy, so that we can deliver apprenticeships and to try and reduce and remove all of those barriers and enhance accessibility to apprenticeships. Furthermore, there needs to be a synergistic relationship between further education and apprenticeships. Despite the crucial roles played, a gap remains in the integration, a gap that needs to be bridged to ensure there's a holistic approach to vocational training, and there's now an urgent need to refocus and review the future of FE in Northern Ireland, and I make that appeal to the Minister as well today, that we tackle clearly and sensibly and seriously the role and work of further education in Northern Ireland. It is too valuable, and it has been valuable in the relationship with apprenticeships. From my party's perspective, our vision for apprenticeships has to be expansive, from all-age apprenticeships to how we access at the younger years. With the principle of, regardless of the sector, fostering inclusivity, we can amplify our efforts to direct focusing on the genuine alternatives apprenticeships deliver and enhance in education and skills. Furthermore, the apprenticeship wage is inadequate in our view. The cost of living crisis, it's impossible to envisage a person living on such a low wage, even though they are gaining valuable skills along the way. So in closing, Principal Deputy Speaker, I would like to offer my appreciation to our apprentices, those in training today, those who will be in training in the future, and those who have been trained in the past and are adding to our economy here in Northern Ireland. Their dedication and hard work has not only been an investment in their future, but as an investment in the future of business and commerce and industry in Northern Ireland. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. I call Steve Aiken.
Allow me to make a declaration of interest as the chair of the all-party group on science, technology, engineering and maths, and also that I'm forming an APG here on aviation, defence and the space sector as well. Minister, Deputy Principal Speaker, every time we talk about into industry, one of the key issues they do come up with is the area of the skills shortage. If we look at Northern Ireland 120 odd years ago, one of the big things that Northern Ireland had was its skilled labour and its skilled workforce. We didn't have any natural resources, but what we did have was a commitment to the improvement of our workforce, and particularly the addition of technical education. And that's where the tradition of the apprenticeship came from, and where are the strong areas that we need to reinvest in Northern Ireland. And Minister and Deputy Principal Speaker, you will be aware, of course, is that we have a student cap in Northern Ireland. And the fact that we we're not able to bring enough students into Northern Ireland has an effect across the entire sector. That affects further education, it affects everything we're trying to do. And it's not helped by the fact that it's already been mentioned, the issue about the apprenticeship levy. The fact that the apprenticeship levy is not used as it is in the rest of our nation, particularly for improvements to education and training for apprentices. Only here does it go into the pot, and it doesn't come to where it should be, which would be helping to fund the further education colleges. And many of our industries have a lot of complaint about this, because they see themselves as being doubly hampered by the fact that they have a skills shortage, but they pay in for an apprenticeship levy, but actually get nothing out of it. But we need to be aware that in Northern Ireland, we also need to be able to help support our traditional areas. In aviation, in shipbuilding, in vehicle manufacture, in the construction industry, as well as the new areas of fintech, life sciences and cyber. And we need to do that by bringing into this idea of the 3 ages. Because most of us will still be working until we're 70. Indeed, some of us are a lot closer to that than others. The important thing is that... behave. The important piece we need to understand is that at each stage we need to be able to retrain and reskill. And if we're going to have 3 ages of training, we need to have that access to both further education and upskilling. And that has to be available to everybody across the sectors in Northern Ireland to do that as well. Finally, just coming to and our party, of course, as Mr. Nesbitt has already said, will be supporting the motion and the amendment. We've got an opportunity here in Northern Ireland, and we are at a point where we could be doing something radical, and what we should be doing something radical. We need to, first of all, remove the student cap. We need to increase the numbers of people, our own people, our greatest natural resources, our own people, keeping them here in Northern Ireland and giving them their opportunity to do that. But we've also got to make sure that the funding that is available for upskilling is used for upskilling. We need to be able to make sure that we're investing very heavily into the interrelationships between our businesses and our industries, our further and higher education, but more importantly, outreaching to our people to say these are valuable things to do. We should all be out there saying, you need to upskill, reskill and do that. It needs to be a process of continuous improvement. Because 125 years ago, that's why we were the Everett, by the way, just in case you don't know, that's where Boeing have their major manufacturing plant, or the Toulouse, or indeed the Singapore, or indeed the Bangalore. That was here in Northern Ireland. The way for us to make that work again is to invest properly in our people and use the funding and resources that we have. And thank you. No, I'm not old.
Thank you, Steve. I call on the Minister for the Economy to respond, and Minister, you have 15 minutes.
I thank the members for moving both the motion and the amendment. There's a remarkable degree of unanimity on the views across the chamber, which augurs well, I have to say, both in terms of the support for both motion and amendment, but also, what I detected on almost all the contributions was the need to properly and publicly value apprenticeships and that vocational technical journey as equal status to the academic journey. The full usage and, again, elevation in esteem of further education colleges seemed to be something that everyone agreed on. Appropriate careers advice to young people, not just a kind of a steer in a certain direction, and ambitious targets, which was part of the motion which people agreed on, and also cross-departmental working, which is something that is going to be very, very necessary, particularly given the financial constraints that we're in, but also if some of the approaches that people have suggested here are going to be followed through on, it is going to require, of course, cross-departmental work. And so all of those things I find myself very much in agreement, and given the fact that most of the people who spoke were on the Economy Committee, augurs well for a very constructive and cordial relationship over the next 3 years between myself and the Economy Committee, and I'm very much looking forward to all of that. There seems to be a great, as I say, synchronising in terms of us all being on the one page, and I think that's important because this is a very, very important area, and the fact is that more often than not, attention's drawn to division in this chamber, and yet we have a debate here which is at the core of how we develop and grow our economy, bring prosperity, create opportunity, create regional balance, all of those things, and how we do that. And the core of that is something which we find a very high level of agreement right across all of the parties in the chamber. So I think it does augur well. It'll not get the focus that perhaps it deserves, because division creates more column inches and more my colleague Mike Nesbitt will know that, more news time coverage than agreement. But nonetheless, I think it certainly fills me with a degree of hope and confidence that we have that level of agreement across the chamber in relation to that. I did set out, and the chair of the committee referred to the 4 key objectives in relation to a new economic mission. Increasing the proportion of working age people in good jobs, very much part of this debate. Promoting regional balance, again, very much part of this debate. Raising productivity, very much part of this debate. And the opportunities that there are in that net zero approach, again, very much part of this debate. The apprenticeship programme is a key tool in achieving that economic vision. as a people-centred business focused on a route to a good job. Apprenticeships bring significant benefits to employers across all sectors, provide high-quality opportunities for participants of all ages, and importantly, they offer the opportunity for people to progress their learning and skills whilst taking home a wage and gaining a recognised qualification. And for employers, apprenticeships provide the opportunity to grow their own skilled workforce. Our apprenticeships are delivered by a network of providers that includes the further education colleges, private training organisations and local universities. And this regional network operates on the ground with local businesses supporting a regionally balanced economy. The Apprenticeships NI programme is well established with over 130 apprenticeships available at level 2 and 3, equivalent to GCSE and A-level. And these programmes offer opportunities to gain a recognised qualification in a wide range of sectors, ranging from accounting and agriculture through to engineering, pharmacy, services and youth work. And I'm pleased to report that apprenticeship numbers in the programme continue to rise year on year. I think there's a suggestion that they've remained static, but they do continue to rise. Updated figures produced by the department this morning show that there are now over 11,000 participants on the Apprenticeship NI programme. The higher level apprenticeships, which was referred to by many of the contributors, has gone from strength to strength since its launch in 2017. Every year we see new employers joining and existing employers increasing the number of apprentices and the range of job roles they are using HLAs to deliver. And the HLAs are becoming increasingly attractive for young school and college leavers. There are now almost 2,500 people on a HLA programme studying for a qualification at foundation degree level or above. These higher level apprentices earn while they learn, making higher level education more accessible to a wider range of people and creating a pathway into good jobs. Businesses are working in partnership with colleges and universities to develop apprenticeship from foundation degree up to master's level across a wide range of areas. I think it speaks to the point my colleague Linda Dillon raised in her intervention. For example, health and life sciences, civil engineering, childcare and youth work and software engineering, and we now have over 60 higher level apprenticeship routes available. This is a route which is proven to promote regional balance. For the year 2021, the highest rates of, I think this answers a point perhaps that Sinead McLaughlin raised, but the highest rates of HLA participation per population were Mid-Ulster, Armagh City, Banbridge and Craigavon and Newrymore and Down councils. So we can see that that kind of regional balance has already been achieved through this approach.
Thank the Minister for giving me. Would he recognise that actually, if we look at those areas in particular, it's quite often whenever a particular industry really takes root in those communities, business continues to grow, and indeed wealth and generation created to those apprenticeships that actually grow our employment and our skills base in those particular areas, which are great examples.
I agree very much. What you have there is a combination of industries which are organised, and you'll find that in Mid-Ulster and in Craigavon as well, and a strong FE provision in the area, which we have in the southern area and in the western area for Mid-Ulster. So it points to the fact that FE colleges aren't getting the elevation of status that they deserve and not getting the full usage that they deserve. We could do much more than has been achieved with it. So I agree that everyone should be able to access opportunities, including those who have already left full-time education. Introduced last September, just published to the department, show that there are now almost 2,000 apprentices aged 25 and above on the Apprenticeship NI programme, and that is very good news. All age apprenticeships create opportunities for people at different stages of life to learn, upskill or reskill. And for people who want to change career or to rejoin the labour force in a new area, they can do so without taking on student debt, which is an important factor in all of this. However, our levels of lifelong learning are low, and we must explore the role of the department in support and training for wider ages in more flexible ways. The government has its own role to play through public sector apprenticeships, and that has been referred to by a number of speakers as well. There are many apprenticeships already being delivered in public sector areas such as civil engineering, IT and operational delivery. The existing nursing HLA is an example of partnership approach between my department and the Department of Health, which I want to see more of. And again, I think that speaks to a point a number of speakers made about cross-departmental working in relation to these matters, including critically with the Department of Education. I've already had a conversation with the Education Minister in relation to that, and I think there will be more opportunities for that cross-departmental collaboration in the time ahead. In the absence of being able to directly fund public sector apprenticeships, my department has been supporting those public sector bodies who want to develop apprenticeships by sharing knowledge, experience and networks. Apprenticeships can and should provide an effective route for social inclusion, creating pathways to education and future careers through employment, but we can do better. Our apprenticeships are heavily male. I think it answers the point that Eastwood made. Dominated, less than 30% of apprentices being female. So I want to see more women in STEM apprenticeships in high-value jobs, as well as across the full range of sectors and types of employment. We anticipate that the further benefit of all age apprenticeships will be to get better gender balance, and I look forward to seeing the evidence in relation to this. Again, we also know our disability employment gap is significant, and employers missing out on talent and individuals not able to access opportunities. So I want to ensure that apprenticeships are inclusive by design, strengthen our workforce and tackling inequality. The return on our investment in apprenticeships should benefit people and businesses in every town and village across the north. I want to ensure that communities are connected into the apprenticeship system and that information is readily available and businesses are well supported to take their first steps into hiring apprentices. My department's careers advisors are at the forefront of communicating the opportunities and benefits of apprenticeships, not only to our young people in schools, but through the delivery of 50,000 interventions annually, but across all sections of our community. Careers advisors have undertaken 20,000 interventions with adults in the past year and have a critical role in raising awareness of the apprenticeship pathway. I welcome the ambition within this motion around setting targets. My focus is on supporting employers to create high-quality apprenticeships and helping more people to access these opportunities. Some of the points, if I haven't managed to touch on them in my contribution already, there were, I say, we have dealt with the issue of there was quite a degree of unanimity, as I say, across the areas of ambitious targets, of the skills strategy itself, of the FE sector, of careers advice. The colleges themselves, I mean, the issue of Castlereagh campus was raised, and that is currently a matter for Belfast Met. We don't have a hands-on role in terms of devising its estate, but nonetheless we are conscious that we need more support in our FE sector, we need more usage. We have a very good FE sector and the potential of it to grow and to offer more opportunities for more people. So I want to see it expand and grow, and the people who work in it to be properly recompensed for that, and also to get people on the career, on the path in terms of equality of pay that they have argued for in terms of that progression along the lines of teaching, and I'm committed to doing that into the future. The other areas were as I say, some of them I have dealt with in relation to my own contribution. Mike Nesbitt had asked about the definition of a good job, and of course there are varying definitions, and that's why we have asked Dr. Lisa Wilson to help us in relation to good jobs. She's someone who has an expertise in the area, but to bring together all the available evidence. It's not about creating a definition which rigidly applies to it, but getting more understanding of the range of factors that go into good jobs. It's not simply about pay, it is about a range of opportunities and conditions attached to jobs, some of which is the ability of people to have representation in the workforce, which is something that has been reduced over the years. Padraig Delargy raised the issue of the cross-border apprenticeships, and I have to say that there is a significant degree of collaboration. I look forward. I've already spoken to Simon Harris, who's my counterpart in the Southern Government in relation to this matter. And the intention is very clearly that we work and continue the work has already begun to try and reduce the barriers to people, particularly living in the border areas, being able to access the education and the opportunities that they need. An apprentice currently in the north can work for a company in the south. And we are, as I say, working through some of the issues to make sure that there are no gaps in eligibility between officials and my department in the south. So there is a degree of collaboration work in regard to that. I'm very much looking forward to the formal reworking of the north-south arrangements, because I believe there's a lot of work that we can achieve in the time ahead in relation to that. There was a discussion in relation to the apprenticeship levy. I think it's just important to say that the apprenticeship levy is a reserve matter. And we don't know no remit in either paying or the allocation of funds that comes from it. We do provide £30 million a year from the department to support funding of apprenticeship training. The public sector does pay into the levy and does not have the recourse to funding here, and that is an issue that people have identified for some time. It needs to be addressed. It's not a satisfactory situation, to say the least. So Steve Aiken raised the issue of student cap and finances, and of course the question in relation to that will be how we fund universities if the cap is lifted and more people, how we, as everyone has accepted in terms of I think the first motion that the Assembly agreed, which was an acknowledgement that we're underfunded and that Treasury needs to work with us to address that issue of underfunding. So I would hope in that context that we can work on the issue of more students and indeed more apprenticeships in the time ahead. So Príomh Concorda, just once again thank all of the members for their contribution. As I say, I'm very heartened by the fact that there's a very strong sense that we're all on the same page in relation to that. I'm very much looking forward to working with the committee in trying to advance all of the issues that have been raised here today and try and make some progress and, as we've all suggested, have ambitious targets and ones that we intend to achieve over the course of this mandate.
I call David Honeyford to wind on the amendment. David, just to advise you, you've got 5 minutes.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker. Just to declare an interest as well, I'm a shareholder in a business that has apprentices. I just thank the Minister for being here and everybody's contribution. I was going to name everybody through, but everybody is, I echo his comments. We're all kind of in agreement and we've had a really good discussion, which is brilliant. And obviously I support the motion on our Alliance amendment. We in Alliance want to see major change and reform of our skills delivery and giving people of all ages the opportunity to be better and to grow themselves, to enable our economy then to grow. To do that, we need to help more employers engage on the Apprenticeship and Skills programme. Recent figures show only 8% of businesses offer apprenticeships, and the number of businesses wanting to expand in this area is 4 times that figure. So we need fundamental structural change to be able to deliver, and we need that dedicated skills fund to help expand the apprenticeship provision. Working to help more employers is one practical example of how we can be on a path to delivery. Transformation of apprenticeships in our education system actually as a whole, rather than just the FE, which promotes apprenticeships and skills, is absolutely key. And Alliance firmly believe that transforming our education system is key to our economy. The two cannot and should not be seen in isolation. You can't have one without the other. Our historic model of educational need massively needs practical transformation, but also, and it's been referenced actually a few times about the attitude that we all have to apprenticeships and that model. This is key to grow the economy and the value, and I really want to stress that word value that we place on technical learning and apprenticeships alongside every other route of academic higher education is key. In the South, one thing to note, in the South they had regional technical colleges which have now merged, and they've transformed those into 5 technological universities, while we still largely rely on the same path we've been doing, the same thing over and over, and getting the same results year after year broadly. I mean, there's a vital role for further education and increasing what they offer and to grow that, but to strengthen links with our small businesses and our industry to bring that change. But Northern Ireland doesn't have those technical universities, and I would ask is something the Minister could investigate and look at, because it's valuing both technical learning alongside academic. That academic route equally is vital in the value piece of what it's worth, of that learning's worth. In my business life, I've employed apprentices and declared that interest. And I want to tell you about one of those apprentices and explain why we need to change. He started late and he changed courses, but he went to a grammar school and he wasn't accepted back after his GCSEs to do A-levels. He wasn't offered any careers advice at all and was frankly dumped out by his school. Not knowing what he wanted to do, his mum basically insisted that he went to tech and enrolled on a course. He was on that course for a little while and he dropped out because it wasn't what he wanted to do. And he started to work for us for a bit and he was just labouring. But the condition that he came to work for us was that he got himself onto an apprenticeship at the next opportunity. And he was about 19 when he started that apprenticeship. And after the Christmas and the New Year, and I'll never forget, so he'd been there a few months. I asked him how he was getting on. So he was with us so many days a week, and then he was in tech for 2. And I'll never forget what he said. This kid went to grammar school, right? And he said, I passed my first test. And he said that was the first time I'd ever passed an exam since the 11 plus. That is appalling. This kid was bright, he was a great worker, he's a reliable employee who ended up working for us for 6 years. But it wasn't until that point that he felt he is of any worth. And he's gone on to have a really good career. But I'm sorry, but an education system that only works for the most academic, where careers advice, and as a parent, my experience is simply a UCAS filling out form advice centre, that needs to be reformed. And I appreciate that what I'm saying branches between two ministries and the issues, but the issues need sorted out with both. And I would echo the call on the Minister to set ambitious targets for increasing Northern Ireland's apprenticeship offering that is in his control. And our aim must be to create opportunities for everyone to excel, with much more diversity and opportunity of all ages, providing a skilled workforce and using great apprenticeship opportunities that give us the ability to continue that learning journey. Thank you, Principal Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, David, and call Gary Middleton to wind on the motion. Gary, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'm glad that Mr Honeyford didn't summarise all the members, because that's what I plan to do over the next number of minutes. But I do think it is worthwhile to summarise on what has been, I think we all agree, a very positive debate on the motion and the amendment, and it's something, no doubt, that we can take heart in going forward. Just a few remarks of my own, just to begin, that it is imperative, I believe, that we do invest in programmes that empower our citizens with the skills and the knowledge that they need to succeed in the workforce. Apprenticeships, with their unique blend in terms of academic and practical training, play a pivotal role in achieving this goal. From an economic standpoint, apprenticeships provide a vital pipeline of skilled workers for industries that are facing labour shortages. By partnering with businesses and training partners, apprenticeships ensure that individuals acquire the specific skills that employers are seeking. I also very much support apprenticeships on the basis that they promote social inclusion and provide opportunities for people from all backgrounds to succeed. Indeed, to fully deliver inclusivity of our apprenticeships offering, we must address the gender gap as well, which exists. A recent Northern Ireland Affairs Committee inquiry into the investment in Northern Ireland heard evidence that women are poorly represented in apprenticeships, and specifically in STEM jobs as well. So it is crucial that the Department, in going forward and in delivering the skills strategy, tackles the factors which have led to some of the apprenticeship initiatives becoming male-dominated. But of course, there's no doubt that more needs to be done to improve entry routes and career progression right across the public sector as well. I want to take the opportunity, obviously, to thank the Minister for being here and for participating in this debate and listening to the many contributions which have come forward over this past hour or so. My colleague Phillip Brett obviously moved the motion and welcomed and accepted the amendment. He welcomed the economic vision set out by the Minister in terms of good jobs, but also recognised the 10X strategy and the endorsement that has from businesses and economic leaders in terms of going forward and trying to bridge the skills gap as well. He, of course, assured the Minister of the DUP support in terms of addressing the issue. He also spoke strongly about North Belfast, and we'll forgive him for that, considering he hears about the North West at every opportunity. But he has been a very strong advocate for North Belfast, and he spoke of the many organisations within his particular constituency who work in supporting apprenticeships. And I think it is important that from all of our constituency perspectives, we recognise that great work that has been done. We don't disregard that, we appreciate it, but there's more that can be done. And finally, he did sum up around the need for joined-up thinking, a wraparound service in terms of careers advice as well. Saoirse Eastwood welcomed the motion and the amendment, and a particular amendment which focuses on education. She spoke about education and skills being a passport for life, and that apprenticeships very much offer an opportunity and a gateway in going forward, but also highlighted the fact that apprenticeships participation remains the lowest in Northern Ireland in terms of a UK-wide basis. Saoirse also spoke about the loss of EU funding and the impact that has had in terms of apprenticeships, but also recognised that there's financial difficulties across government departments, and we're all alive to that fact. But of course, we have to ensure that we do invest for the future as well. There were so many other points. One of the common themes that we've heard from Saoirse and others was around the issue of careers advice, the need to empower people as well in terms of going forward. The apprenticeship levy was mentioned alongside the acceptance that Northern Ireland is made up of SMEs and we must support them with apprenticeship development. Mr McGuigan, Philip, he spoke on the Minister's economic vision, again highlighted the loss of EU funding and the inadequacy from his point of view in terms of the Shared Prosperity Fund and the gap that has left in terms of going forward. He also highlighted the benefits of nursing apprenticeships to the sector, but also the green sector and the energy strategy in terms of the potential for additional jobs to be created. Mike Nesbitt highlighted the importance of the skills fund and his party's support in that regard. Also highlighted some of the best practice across Scotland and the Republic of Ireland as well, and highlighted the Democracy at Work event which happened here in Parliament buildings earlier on today. Highlighted one of the debates at the Economy Committee in terms of what it means to have a good job, and from his perspective, that is in terms of a job that a person takes pride in, a job that society values, and a job that the employer rewards appropriately. And no doubt we will come back to that as we continue to work through the economic vision in the Economy Committee. Sinead McLaughlin highlighted that apprenticeships were fundamental in terms of driving forward economic growth and also bringing people back into the labour market as well. Once again highlighted the issue of EU funding and we need to find ways of making up lost ground. Highlighted manufacturing NI and Stephen Kelly's comments in terms of the availability of labour and the shortage within particular sectors as well. Also highlighted the need for finding a balance between the further and higher education sectors and investing where the need is greatest in terms of regional imbalance. Padraig Delargy spoke in terms of his engagement with local businesses, Terex and Newprint, some of the concerns that we've all heard in terms of removing barriers to apprenticeships, age, gender, qualifications, and then highlighted some specific challenges which the Minister has responded to in terms of North-South relations, the impact of apprenticeships within border communities, careers guidance and nursing as well, the particular challenges that exist there. My colleague Jonathan Buckley positively spoke about apprenticeships, the need to celebrate and recognise the value that they have on society. He also spoke of his personal experience, and we do have sympathy with him in terms of having to sit down with our colleague Keith Buchanan at the time. But it highlights, I think, the example that apprenticeships come from all walks of life and all backgrounds, and it's something that we very much should celebrate as well. He also paid tribute to the previous economy ministers, Gordon Lyons and Diane Dodds, in terms of what they did to progress apprenticeships as well. And I think it's important that we do put that in record. Coming near the end, Stuart Dixon, chair of the All-Party Group on Social Enterprise, spoke of the transformative power of apprenticeships, the need for a dedicated skills fund, the wide-ranging benefits of apprenticeships on that particular sector. And Steve Aiken, in terms of the APG chair of STEM, highlighted some of the frustrations around student cap, the impact that has on various sectors, the apprenticeship levy, and indeed the process of how we improve that as well. And finally, obviously, the Minister spoke about his economic vision and the 4 priority areas in response to that, and answered a number of queries across the chamber, and Mr Honeyford summed up. I think that, and summing up, Madam Speaker, I think that it's been a very encouraging debate. I think the tone has been set in terms of how we'll go forward in addressing a number of these issues and challenges. I think that this will only be addressed by working collaboratively across all sectors. It's too big an issue to try and score political points. I think this is something that we can really make a difference in the short time that we have in this remaining mandate. So thank you, Madam Speaker, and obviously we commend the motion and the amendment to the House.
Thank you. So the question is that the amendment standing in the names of Saoirse Eastwood, David Honeyford and Stuart Dixon be made. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Can't we have any noes? The ayes have it. So the other question is that the motion as amended be agreed. All those in favour say aye. Contrary of any noes? Did you? Right, okay, the ayes have it. So, so that concludes this item of business. I just want to invite members just to take their ease until we change the top table. Thank you.